I'm going to be joined by a friend of the show, and he's going to chop it up with me and tell. We got to get an update. Brother Jamal Green, activist from Chicago, former mayoral candidate, entrepreneur, just all around young brother out there doing the thing. How you doing, Jamal?
What's up, Benjamin? How you doing? Good morning.
Good morning, man. And listen, thank you for being able to jump on at such short notice. I've been following the good thing about technology, man, is even though I'm not in Chicago, I'm able to see what's going on. I've been following your timeline. Give us an update, because here's the thing, Jamal. That's what I love and hate about this work. Everyone always says, "What about Chicago?" As if people aren't in Chicago trying to do the work. Tell me what's going on up there, man.
So, we are trying to build an 80,000 square foot youth center on the south side of Chicago. Many people, if you don't know, we have this year is like the highest rate of violence in decades, right? Last year was the highest rate of violence in 24 years. So almost all my life. Now this year is even worse than last year. So it is out of control. Yesterday, we just had 9 people shot at one place. We have mass shootings every week. For over the weekend, this past weekend, 60 people shot and a dozen killed. This is our everyday weekend, and our weeks are just bloody. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to tackle the root causes of what's going on in the city of Chicago by building a facility that's not only a safe haven, not only a place where we can tackle the root causes of what's going on, like having a wellness center on site and tackling mental health, having services for homeless youth, making sure that we evaluate each student, make each all-star, what we call them, to make sure that they have the services needed based on where they're coming from, or the household they're coming out of and the school they're coming out of, but then giving them programming to inspire them and give them hope that they could be more. So we're talking about a coding program so they can learn how to code and build games and build apps. You're talking about a vertical farm on the roof so they can learn how to grow their own vegetables. An aviation program where they can have flight simulators and they can learn how to be pilots, carpentry, and on and on. This is a very revolutionary center that's not been done like this. And we're fighting with the mayor right now because me and the mayor are not good friends.
With the black mayor? You're having to fight with the black mayor?
The black mayor. And she is, very funny. Lori Lightfoot she is very out of touch with our neighborhoods and have been for many years and since she's been mayor. And she doesn't have anybody in her administration from Chicago, and definitely not from our community. So everybody that she appoints in her administration, they're from out of town, including her. She's not from Chicago. She's from Ohio. So you would imagine why violence is where it is and why we're having so many problems. And so we're fighting with her just to get the city land it was an abandoned school that I went to in 6th grade. It was one of the schools they shut down many years ago. They shut down 50 black schools at one time, right? And just threw them all, made them go travel miles to another school, causing a whole bunch of other chaos. But this is a school that's been sitting here in the same place, messed up, asbestos all in the school. I mean, they done took everything, stripped it. It is just a shell and have been for eight years plus. And so we're trying to repurpose the land so we can build a center for the community and for young people, as well as increase property values. And it'll just really help the community. And but we're fighting with her, and because she doesn't like me. And she doesn't want me on the project. This is a community project.
Because you're a troublemaker, man. You're a rabble rouser. You go down there. If you see an issue, you don't waste time. Like you don't pull any punches. And people don't like. So you do know why she doesn't like you, right?
Of course, of course I know why she doesn't like
All
me.
right.
And you have every right to like me, but don't like me. But the problem is that when this is a community project. We have the top architectural firm in the state, top developer in the state, hundreds of folks who have played a part in this, all the community organizations. This isn't about me. This is about our young people, and this is about our community. you got to put that bull crap to the side, and that's what I would do if I was the mayor, but everything is to her is personal. Remember, when the aldermen don't vote for her, she told them, don't ask me for SHIT until the next for the rest of my term if y'all don't vote for my budget, the budget that gave billions of dollars to police.
Because it's all tied together, Rebecca Azor. We've been diagnosing this thing. That's this thing for this fake bipartisanship, this fake reaching across the aisle. First of all, good morning. How you doing, sis? Oh, girl, you just talking real good and the microphone all on mute. You still on mute. We figured that out. She's here. You can see her. For those
I'm here. My bad. That was me. That was me. I had to put it on mute because it was kind of weird. But no, good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Here it is.
Bubba Jakes, who's not in the house this morning. But it was very abrupt. So you guys are in your conversation and I didn't want to just be like, hey, what's up? Right.
Just
like in the middle. Didn't want to do all of that. But you were saying though, Ben, bipartisanship.
Yeah.
It's like that whole idea. First of all, it doesn't matter if the folks that are your leaders are black or not, and then you fight with them. Even if you're moving in a way where you're trying to lead and you end up having to fight your own, sometimes it be the folks in the crew, the folks that look like us that we do have to sometimes disagree with, and it may turn out to be a fight or whatever, right? But sometimes you got to do what you got to do. Because everybody ain't for you. Everybody ain't on the same side. We say that all the time on the show. Now, the bipartisanship thing, that is something that I just find to be crazy. And with the latest example of Kamala Harris, I don't even know if we got there yet.
No, we haven't. But I
don't even know if we got there yet.
But I got the clip for you. I got the clip. Just
do not come here.
Yeah, play this clip. This is Kamala Harris. Let's take a listen in as she discusses immigration.
I want to be clear to folks in this region who are thinking about making that dangerous trek to the United States-Mexico border. Do not come.
What?
Do not come.
Exactly.
The United States will continue to enforce our laws and secure our border. There are legal methods by which migration can and should occur. But we, as one of our priorities, will discourage illegal migration. And I believe if you come to our border, you will be turned back. So let's discourage our friends, our neighbors, our family members from embarking on what is otherwise an extremely dangerous journey.
So we really expanded the conversation here, but this does absolutely tie in, Rebecca. And then Rebecca, tell us what you thought about this clip. Then I want to bring in John Nichols, and we're going to expand. And we're going to find together the lies that are being told to us all over the place.
The lies. So here it is for me. All I heard was build that wall. That's all I heard from her. And like I couldn't hear anything else. That's all I heard. And it's funny because she was giving Trump energy. That was giving very much Trump. Nobody can tell me that it was different, because that's exactly what Trump said before his presidency, during his presidency. It's exactly that. And she's speaking literally to in the news conference with the Guatemalan president. So it's like, don't come here. Tell your people to stay where they at, even though we come to these, countries and we just run through it, mess it all up. We don't need y'all to come and seek refuge over here. We don't need that. And that's exactly what she was saying to them very confidently. And this is where my issue lies, because that's that bipartisanship that everybody was looking for, right? There it is. There goes the one that President Biden was running off of. When he was running, he was talking about bipartisanship, hold hands, be friends. And Kamala Harris was giving that. When she said that America isn't racist, there's a bipartisanship talking point. When she said when she said just now, for y'all not to come here, for anybody else, basically don't come here. There will be consequences. That to me was a bipartisanship talking point. And what that's going to do is bring the Republicans, bring the alt-right, and they're already on Twitter just going in.
They loved it.
They loving it.
They loved it. But what you gonna get back in return? Let's do this. I want you to set the proposition for me, J Mal. What do you see the commonalities between Lori Lightfoot and Kamala Harris in terms of not them personally as being Black women, but in the role that they facilitate for the system? Like, are they there for us or are they there for the system? And then we're gonna bring in John Nichols.
100% there for the system. Lori and Kamala are one of the same. And Lori Lightfoot, here in Chicago, who acts like she's progressive, is far, 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 far from progressive. She is police number one. And when I say every chance she gets, she throws we gave police $2.5 billion last year, and when they were protesting, she raised bridges downtown so people couldn't come downtown and they had to stay and loot in their own neighborhoods. Protesters getting beat up, teeth knocked out. When I say Lori Lightfoot is no progressive, she is no progressive. So, the blackface and the fact that she is the first LGBTQ mayor fooled everybody. But this time, people got to understand that symbolism means nothing. And real quick, my boy Ryan Knight tweeted this about Kamala on this "Do Not Come Here." He said, "Statue of Liberty, give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. Kamala Harris, do not come. Do not come.
Hello.
If you come, you will be turned away."
Now, did Ryan Knight DM you and ask you to retweet that? Okay, I digress. Never mind. Go ahead. Coming to the screen now is John Nichols of The Nation. He is author of The Fight for the Soul of the Democratic Party. John, I want to bring you in to help me connect the dots, because we have two stories. Actually, we have three things on the table, and I think that there's a connecting thread. You were speaking about some of your recent articles. You were dealing with some of the intricacies in terms of this type of funding, reparations, and but then you also were looking at this proposition of what Kamala Harris is telling, the role that she's facilitating. Maybe not so much the specifics of what she's saying, but the role she's facilitating is the same role that Lori Lightfoot is facilitating. Do you see any commonalities overlapping those?
Well, I think that your other folks here today have laid out a lot of it, and we've seen this challenge, and I love that you focused in on this issue of so-called bipartisanship, right? Because I've argued for a long time that bipartisan is the word that corporate interests use. It translates for them as sucker, right? If you buy into a concept that there can be some sort of bipartisan agreement, that there can be some sort of common ground, you're going to end up in a situation where very powerful interests get what they want, because that isn't a common ground for the great mass of people. It's not a common ground for what is good for all Americans. And by the way, that can cross lines of class, that can cross lines of race, that can cross lines of ethnicity. Instead of looking for that, right, you're saying, oh, you know what? We can't give you all that you want, right? We can't give you the safety, the security, the welcome that makes sense. And so we're going to start to barter things off. We're going to say, no, we've got to be tougher with you in this way. We've got to be tougher with you in that way. We've got to raise the bridge to keep people from coming into downtown. We've got to put the wall up to keep people from coming into this country. And I think that if we start to understand that, then we are to start to understand the real crisis in America. And the crisis in America is that we lack the clarity of a two-party system. Frankly, as I've said to you, Ben, before, I'm a supporter of a multi-party system. I'd like to see a lot of parties there with principles coming in, and then, they all win some seats. They have to build coalitions. That's what you see in countries around the world. But we don't have that. We've got a two-party system. Okay, that's what we're stuck with. For better, we're structurally that is reinforced not merely by political types, that is reinforced by corporate power again and again and again. They like this two-party system because it's less for them to have to buy off. And so we end up in this circumstance where Democrats, as an example, win the presidency, the vice presidency, the Senate, and the House. And they win it saying, nope, we're going to really reverse course for Donald Trump. We're going to do something really different here. And then suddenly, oh no, we're going to spend 6 months trying to figure out if we can get a Republican to help us pass an infrastructure bill. Right? I'm sorry. This is, and I know that it's the worst analogy in the world, but this is Lucy with the football, right?
Yeah.
Lucy with the football. The Democrats are Charlie Brown, right? I mean, they're like, one more time. I know I can kick it this time. And bipartisan, written on that football is the word bipartisan, right? It's like, oh yeah, we can make it. And you go back to 1940s, right? After Roosevelt was there, Truman comes in and, they say, oh yeah, we can work together and stuff like this. Truman tries. He actually dialed down a lot of Roosevelt's economic programs. 1946, he loses governing power. You say, well, that's one time that happened then. 1970s, Carter comes in, Democratic Congress. He's got, really a mandate. Nixon literally just gets kicked out as president. And Carter says, oh, I can work with the Republicans. 78, he loses his governing power. He doesn't lose his majorities, but they have so many Southerners come in, he starts to dial down. Clinton comes in, big majorities, right? He's ready to govern. So I got to work with the Republicans. We're going to do deficit reduction and all this stuff like that. We're not going to keep our promises. No, we're going to have enough. Exactly. 94, Obama. Right? You lose your governing majority. 2008, Barack Obama comes in. Great majorities, overwhelming majorities. Good message, solid message. And then say, oh no, we got to find 3 Republicans to work with us on our stimulus bill. They barter off all the good stuff in the stimulus bill, right? Which is the key economic thing of the moment. And then 2010, they lose their governing majority.
And that's
now,
right.
Yeah. So, okay, I'm done with my rap here. This is all I got to say is you look at all these examples and now amazingly,
they do the
shocking.
same
same thing.
How do you do this again?
That's the part. Okay, so we look at the folly of bipartisanship. I think I might call today's episode the folly of bipartisanship because Jamal, down in Chicago, you have Lori Lightfoot there, who essentially is delivering the same type of thing. Like when it comes to the Black community, we relentless in brown communities, Rebecca, in terms of the immigration, we get the negative side of this negotiation. We always get the $1 billion to the Black community. When they would negotiate on behalf of Black folks, when Mayor Lightfoot negotiated on behalf of Black folks, the budget went to the police. Why do we always get the bad end of this bipartisanship?
Because we Black, I don't really know how to answer that, Benjamin Dixon, but I do feel that they will always give us that part of the stick, the shorter end of the stick, because we are Black. Nothing is in place that was set to benefit Black folks or people of color. I mean, they're going to put people in place to literally be the Candace Owens and the Daniel Camerons, the faces, and they're going to make sure they do that. Kamala Harris is the perfect person. She's mixed, she's on the Black side, she's on the Asian side. She could just, all of that. So it's great for her, right?
And she got experience in telling people to cease and desist.
Hello.
They do too. They both.
My show about to get canceled as hell.
Listen. She put people's daddies and sisters in jail.
I didn't mean to open up
Lori
that
Lightfoot too.
You said Lori Lightfoot as well.
She was a prosecutor.
Oh, wait a minute.
Here's the thing, though.
Prosecutor in Illinois.
The police state, they're representatives of the police. They are there to serve. The side of bipartisanship that they're there to serve is the police state.
And when they are associated with that type of career, it's like it's white supremacy is tied all in there too. So even if you're not white, you can still move in that systemic way. And that's what we see when we see Kamala Harris. And when we hear her, it doesn't matter because she graduated from an HBCU. I love that, we the Black community, will say, "Oh, a Black woman is in the vice presidency." It was beautiful. We celebrated on that day. We was like, Black women. We did on that day. And then it's like, but then we're like, we have to hold her accountable. And in this moment, I'm sorry. I don't care if y'all reach with short arms to attack AOC, and for her saying those migrant jails for immigrants, pointing that out, that it's wrong. You know what I mean? So it's for me, it's like they're gonna try to tie it. It's already happening. The right is saying that, look at Kamala joining us on this side. AOC could never. They're already doing that now. So it's causing a stir. And this is what the bipartisanship that the Republicans wanted. This is what it looks like. It's not really unified. It's more division, if anything. So
how is that mirrored in Chicago, Jamal?
You know what? It is the same exact way. Lori Lightfoot and Kamala are, when I say they're very similar, they come from very similar backgrounds. Lori Lightfoot was a prosecutor, a Fed. She's a prosecutor for the federal government. Okay. So she was a top prosecutor. All those folks who are in prison right now do not like Lori Lightfoot, because most of them was put in there by her. And so when you look at the track record, all right, they are very similar. And right here in Chicago, we always get, like you just said, Ben, the bad end of the stick. Okay. You got folks out here without jobs, without homes, that are homeless, young people, 20,000 homeless young people, no mental health facilities, no community centers. And the best thing that she did is the best thing that she did, which was terrible, a terrible thing she did. But the best thing she did was come to the south side of Chicago 2 weeks ago, where me and her had some words. And she comes to a community riddled with violence, riddled with vacant lots and vacant buildings. And she says, hey, I'm going to announce a new program today to allow people to put in a proposal to get a vacant lot and turn them into a community garden. Lady, stop playing with us. Come on, man. Stop playing. The police get $2.5 billion a year. And she came and said, y'all can turn y'all lots into some vacant gardens, some community gardens. Man, J-Ball, I was done with her, man.
J-Ball, look, I gotta, John, I want to bring you in to dovetail this, because one, J-Ball, you wild, but the truth is like we get the bad end of the stick. And I think the way that we can judge whether or not that bipartisanship is in favor for us is the results that it gets. And before, sometimes we don't have time to wait on the results, because the results can be so damaging. You got to look at who's praising you. I want to play this clip, right-wing radio praising. I'm going to go all the way up to Kyrsten Sinema, because she's doing the same thing, right? Kamala Harris got praise from right-wingers yesterday. Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin, they get praise from the Republican Party. And so it's like every time they try to do something bipartisan, it ends up benefiting the other side. And we can tell by who they praise. Play that clip.
Republican Party has no cohesive message. And I've said time and time again, make the message meaningful. The Republican Party has none. Look at Cheney. Look at what she did. And we had Flake here in Arizona. I think one of the people that's more of a Republican, I shouldn't say this because I'm going to get hammered for this, is our very own Kyrsten Sinema. She's the one that's blocking the removal of the filibuster in the Senate, and she's a Democrat.
There they go. John, throughout, from a historical perspective, you could tell what's going to happen by who's praising it.
Of course. Look, and this gets back to this bipartisanship concept, right? It's like so many of these political figures want that praise. They want they think it's a big deal. Even conservatives are saying I'm good, and they do the biggest lie of all, that if the people of the other party praise me, then I must be an honest player. I must be the straight shooter. And our media feeds right into this, right? The media constantly says, oh, yeah, you're offending both sides. You must be right. No, because at the end of the day, you're not offending both sides. You're actually, what you're doing is you're taking care of yourself. And frankly, you're very often taking care of your campaign donors, right? You're taking care of the people who fund your campaigns. But let me take this to what I think is sort of the maybe one of the core challenges here, and that is we're talking about the filibuster as an example, right? The filibuster isn't in the Constitution. It's not some historic rule that has always existed. It's not a part of good governance or anything like that. The filibuster exists, as Dr. King explained in the 1960s, to prevent progress for particularly African Americans, but also for all sorts of other peoples. It has been used again and again and again as a tool to prevent civil rights, voting rights, economic justice. You run down the list. And so here we have Democrats stepping up saying, oh, I'm in favor of tradition. I'm in favor of doing things the way that we've always done it. No, you aren't. No, you aren't. You are in favor of employing a tool that power has used, particularly, frankly, in recent decades, to prevent us from having, any kind of delivery on the promises of a political party that mobilizes, seemingly mobilizes a mass movement and wins an election on the promise of, or the pledge of, transformational change. And here we're seeing it happen in real time. This is a point at which we ought to pull the brakes and say, just as we talked about with Lucy and the football here, this is time to pull the brakes and say, no, we're just not going to do this movie again. The first movie was a bad one. Sequel 2 was worse. Sequel 3 was worse. Sequel 4 was worse. And boy, I'm telling you, if you've ever seen, like Sequel 9 and it was good, you're looking at a different movie series than I've been involved in.
Fast and the Furious.
I don't know. That's actually a better example of it than most. But no, here's what we're talking about, though. And so I think that it's an interesting thing. I've been looking back at this and writing about some of these filibuster fights as an example. And I don't want to go down that. I think what you're on here is a deeper conversation. So I don't want to get lost in the filibuster per se. But I'll just use it as an example. In 1964, when they were doing the Civil Rights Act, and then into 65 with the Voting Rights Act, they expected a big filibuster. They really did. They had it in 57 on the first civil rights bill to come post-Civil War. They waited a better part of 100 years to do something. By the way, I'll note that it was under a Republican president, Dwight Eisenhower, that they actually started to move on that. But that got filibustered. Then they're expecting a filibuster. Strom Thurmond's still there. Stennis, Eastland, all these Southerners are still there. They're expecting a filibuster. King goes to Washington, appears on national television, does the talk shows, talks about the filibuster, and says very bluntly, look, if there's a filibuster on this, at this point, after everything we've been through, we're going to have to go to the streets. We're going to have to, we are going to have to make this an issue. And of course, King preaching nonviolent civil disobedience, but at a time when there were others who were pushing for a more militant politics. And when King said that, the interesting thing is people heard it, right? They heard, wow, if we do a filibuster this time, it isn't just going to be a little club thing, right? One senator getting a little upset with another senator. This is something going out to America. This is where people mobilize and, Jamal, where they can't get the bridges put up in time, right? When the people pour into Washington and pour into those neighborhoods around Senate offices and demand something happen. And I hate to try and speed up history, but my sense is that we're at such a point. And so where will that mobilization come from? Where will that energy come from? It has to come from people who are willing to call out those in power, be they Democrats or Republicans.
That's right.
And to say, no, we are not going to accept the excuse that you can't give us before the People Act. Right. You can't give us the PRO Act.
The bare minimums.
The George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. You can't give us a Green New Deal. You can't give us any of these things because of this filibuster. We're just not going to play that game this time. And if I can say one last thing, you could say you're doing it as a favor to the Democratic Party. You don't have to say, oh, we're,
because they don't know what's best for them right now.
They don't. And the fact is, if you remember 1946, 1978, 1994, and 2010, the 4 cycles I talked about before, where the Democrats lost their real governing power. If you start to think of it in that way, the people that say at this point, no, you can't give us half a loaf. You got to
Right.
give us something
No,
real.
we're at that stage. We're there now, John. John
That's
Nichols,
delivering the message.
John Nichols of The Nation. Thanks so much for joining us. Jamal Green, do you have some more time?